Alrighty, party peoples of the interwebs, in case you haven't been paying attention, it hasn't really been a very good week for Kamala Harris. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler in my home office, and I'm calling this video Sex, Lies, and Plagiarism, and it all starts with sex because we're talking about Kamala Harris.
Are you his daughter?
Now, before we even get into the vlog, I am bad at asking this, but stop right now. Make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you have notifications turned on if you like what I do. If you don't like what I do, drop a comment below and let me know why you don't like what I do. Let's get into it. And that's what Willie Brown said. All right, no, sex, lies, and plagiarism, because this all starts with sex. I was listening to Harmeet Dillon on Tucker Carlson talking about Kamala Harris's illustrious career and how it got started, and it got started by sexing up Willie Brown.
She was 29 to 30 and he was 60. Willie Brown, who was like the godfather of San Francisco politics and very well known. And sure enough, that relationship paid dividends for her in more ways than one.
I made a crass joke on Twitter that Kamala should go back to filleting Willie Brown because that might be the only thing that she was good at, and I immediately felt bad after that tweet. But then I said, no, I'm not feeling bad for stating reality. They want to make me feel bad for saying the things that are true. All right, I shouldn't have used the word blown. I should have used filleted. That would have been much better.
I can derelict my own balls, thank you very much.
It is a widely known, undisputed fact that Kamala Harris's career rose at the rate of Willie Brown's. Willie, she was not fit for any position that she ever held in life, and her track record speaks to that. And so when I say that these scandals start with sex, lies, and plagiarism, well, it starts with sex, and then it leads into the other two because she has always been grossly unqualified for the positions she has held. Except for one position. Oh my God, stop it, Dave, stop it.
Now, Brown is widely credited with helping to launch the senator's career.
The lie of the week, although this isn't really her fault, assuming she had nothing to do with it, the scandal involving CBS and 60 Minutes editing out her totally incomprehensible word salad of an answer to their policy in the Middle East, and when Netanyahu's not listening to this administration, her answer was so idiotic, it led people to believe she's actually an idiot. But above and beyond being idiotic, the answer also illustrated the fact that nobody in the Middle East cares about anything that this current Biden-Harris administration has to say, which might be why we see the world falling to pieces before our eyes. It's what happens
when there is no centralized leadership anymore.
Kamala Harris goes on 60 Minutes. She provides the most word salad, idiotic answer to a question, and apparently it was so bad that after 60 Minutes aired the initial broadcast, they then edited out the original answer and spliced in another answer to make it look like her answer was somehow less coherent. It's a scandal of epic proportions. Here's the comparison if you haven't seen it.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
I hate playing the game, what if this were Donald Trump or a Republican, but if this were Donald Trump or a Republican, they would argue that Trump is colluding with media to interfere with an election. They would argue everything under the sun. They would try to lock up Trump and anyone involved on the media end of this had this happened, say, at Fox News. But set aside the game, what if this were Donald Trump, appreciate the scandal here. Whether or not Kamala Harris and or her campaign colluded with CBS in order to fix her answer, they don't need to collude. They don't need to write an email. They don't need to say, could you fix up that answer? Everybody involved in this knows exactly what needs to be done. That's how true corruption works. 60 Minutes goes in and tries to fix the broken answer coming from the broken idiot Kamala Harris. And then we seem to move on with it as though nothing happened, and then we step into the other lie of the week, Kamala Harris playing a highly edited video of Donald Trump, trying to make him look like an idiot, and I replied to this tweet saying, oh my goodness, even in this highly edited, out of context, dishonest video, you still couldn't make Donald Trump look bad. Here is the original video. I might speed it up because it's about a minute and a half of nothing. This is the original video that appeared on Kamala Harris HQ Twitter feed.
Well, sir, do you want to play your song and then greet a few people, or do you want to? Well, you had said you wanted to close with a specific song.
And then Kamala Harris, in all her wisdom, tweets, "I hope he's okay," as if to make fun of the fact that she's seemingly saying that something is wrong with Donald Trump. Although even in that video, nothing is wrong with Donald Trump. Aside from the fact that it is a highly edited video in the first place, there's a darn good explanation apparently for why Donald Trump was standing on stage, not doing anything, maybe looking a little uncomfortable dancing along with the music. According to Tommy Lauren, and this has been confirmed elsewhere, there were medical emergencies in the crowd, so Trump was standing there while people tended to the medical emergencies. That's the explanation for why Donald Trump might have been standing there mildly uncomfortably, but I didn't even think it was uncomfortable whatsoever. Anyhow, this is what Tommy Lauren had to say. "You are sick. People in his audience who weren't bussed in had medical emergencies, and he paused to show respect and be sure they were okay. You are despicable." And Tommy, I concur. Now, the ultimate irony about all of this is that you've got Kamala Harris's equally idiot running mate, Tampon Tim, no balls, AWOLs, walls. You got him coming on social media. You got him doing the interviews saying that misinformation is not protected speech and that somehow the government should have a role in protecting the general public from misinformation, when you've got his running mate, the woman who is running to be president of these United States of America, putting out literal disinformation on a daily basis.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
And if you profit off of hate, if you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
So while I'm inclined to say, I'm sorry, Tampon Tim, but misinformation and disinformation, however you so choose to define that, whoever defines that, is a protected First Amendment activity. But let's play along with your game, shall we? All right, lock Kamala Harris up for misinformation. Fine her, censor her, deplatform her for spreading misinformation and disinformation, and most importantly,
Plagiarism.
And now for the trilogy of the Kamala Harris Bad Week scandals. She has been not credibly accused of plagiarism, definitively proven to have committed plagiarism. And if you're one of those smooth-brained, low-information voters who thinks you're highly educated because you read the New York Times, you probably haven't heard much about this story. From Christopher F. Rufo, breaking, CNN confirms by reporting that Kamala Harris plagiarized her book, Smart on Crime. This is exactly how it worked with Claudine Gay. The New York Times tried to obfuscate. CNN told the truth. Other publications followed. Eventually, even the New York Times admitted it was plagiarism. Yes, Kamala Harris, the woman who slept her way to the top of her career, a DEI hire by definition and by Joe Biden's own admission, definitively plagiarized in her own book, Tough on Crime. Sorry, not Tough on Crime, because that would be a lie. Smart on Crime, which is also a lie because Kamala Harris has not been smart on anything except for Willie Brown. Christopher Rufo finds definitive evidence, we're going to get there in a second with a comparison, definitive evidence that Kamala Harris plagiarized in her book, Smart on Crime, and then the New York Times and others come out and say it's a right-wing conspiracy to smear Kamala Harris while they try to undermine and deny the plagiarism. Christopher F. Rufo on Twitter, @RealChrisRufo, the New York Times is lying about my plagiarism story, and I have the receipts to prove it. 1. The Times claimed that I only argued that Kamala Harris plagiarized, quote, 5 sections, end quote, involving, quote, about 500 words, end quote. But this isn't true. In my story, I wrote that Stephen Weber argued that there are, quote, more than a dozen, end quote, instances of, quote, vicious plagiarism, end quote. This past Saturday, I provided the Times not only with my written analysis, which argues that there are, quote, more than a dozen, end quote, but with Weber's full dossier, which included 18 allegations of varying severity. So the Times deliberately withheld this crucial contextual information from its readers and from its supposed plagiarism expert, who, based on this limited information, called it, quote, not serious, end quote. They could have easily confirmed the, quote, more than a dozen, end quote, point, but instead lied by omission. The New York Times lying by omission colored me shocked. I mean, it's not like the New York Times has an entire history of this, and if you haven't read the book, The Gray Lady Winks, go read it. It's amazing. And while the New York Times tries to write this off as not such a severe issue, they actually have a plagiarism expert analyze this, if you can believe it. While they try to convince you, according to their plagiarism expert, that it's no big deal, have a look at a side-by-side comparison of the alleged plagiarism. You will note it's not just plagiarism, it is cut and paste verbatim, virtually. I think there's 2 words missing from the version Kamala Harris cut and paste as compared to the original.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
It has gotten so bad for Kamala Harris that...
Wait a second.
Have you subscribed and turned on notifications? I didn't notice you do it. I can wait here all day, people. I'm kidding, I can't. It's actually getting quite hot in the car. It has gotten so bad for Kamala Harris that now she's talking about going on Joe Rogan. She's going on with Brett Baer tonight on Fox News for an actual adversarial interview, and I cannot wait to see this interview, but it has been a bad week for Kamala Harris. When they want to talk about the emperor having no clothes, Joe Biden was cognitively naked for at least a year, if not more, and there's only so long you can cover that up for. Kamala Harris is cognitively deficient, and there's only so long you can cover that up for. But that is the recap of the three latest, and I would say arguably, perhaps the most important scandals facing Kamala Harris. Plagiarism. Can you imagine that Joe Biden was taken down by plagiarism, accusations of plagiarism a while ago, and it might be one of the contributing factors to taking down Kamala Harris this time? There is that old expression, fate loves irony, and this is indeed fateful, and this is indeed ironic, but if you like what I do, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment in the comment section below because it feeds the algorithm. If you want to support the channel, you can get some merch at Viva Fry. You can support our wonderful community at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Every Sunday night, Viva and Barnes, Law for the People, Law Extravaganza with Robert Barnes, but most importantly, exercise, eat healthy, sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah!
If you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.